You're a serial entrepreneur. Like you do not sleep. You are nonstop.
Because we realized that without the money, our reality is not going to change. However, I had a superpower.
You've had 200 DMT trips, but there's a lot of pieces I think you left out.
Dr. Action for these dreams. I nonstop was working from my 20 to 30. There's no fun stories.
Like what drove you at 14 to decide to jump into fitness?
I had stood up to my first bully and I punched him in the face.
When we were talking about you going to Vegas, you got pretty emotional. What was that about?
Spirituality and capitalism belong together. Those thoughts, those feelings, that comes from something bigger than I am. And together I believe we can all grow. That's how we're going to change the world. That's how we're going to change the planet.
Daniel, thank you so much for joining us out here today at The Spiritual Capitalist. I'm super honored that you came out here. We've got to spend the weekend together and really diving deep into your story, into the human consciousness, and really like where you are, your mission, where you're going. And I think today's going to be an amazing episode.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah.
We've had a chance to talk. We had the chance to work together also a couple of years ago.
We did.
And just being very excited to be here in Salt Lake with you.
I love that, man. Yeah, I was thinking about back when we started working together, and I remember you sending me over this basically this plan, and it said I think I need to eat like I don't know something like 12 or 6 eggs in the morning and like 2 pieces of ribeye, and I thought, what in the hell am I doing here? Like this is a crazy amount of food. I'm definitely going to get fat, but what I found is in doing that, because you're an expert when it comes to carnivore, which you taught me so much about carnivore. And you taught me so much about water fasting. And you taught me about how to like basically clean out my cells with water fasting. Because a lot of the stuff that you were talking about at the time seemed very controversial. And it didn't really make any sense to me. But I've been following your journey for many years now. And to watch where you are and what you've done in the community. And when I say that, it's really inspiring because you are a constant person that is pushing towards excellence in everything you do.
Thank you. So it always... like every meal plan or a diet plan, when it comes on a surface and it's presented to the public, has certain type of resistance. We saw it with the keto diet in 2014. When keto was presented to the public, there was a massive resistance from the public because it was new. Now the absence of carbohydrates was labeled as unhealthy. And same thing happens to carnivore diet when it came to public in 2016 when Dr. Baker first talked about it at Joe Rogan's and London Real. It became publicly known diet, so it went through its phases of resistance. And then 2020, it's been talked about more and more and more. So that's why back then when we started working together, it was controversial. But now in 2024, it's much more accepted because there's just so much more information available.
Yeah, there's a lot more data available about that. And I think if anybody wants to learn anything about Daniel, as far as when it comes to the carnivore diet, when it comes to your specific ways of working out and the process you use, you have put out so much content online. I mean, you've got 10, 15 reels, it seems like, coming out a day. You can follow you anywhere on social media and find this story. But instead of focusing on that today, because I think you've really executed and taught so many people about proper ways of eating, and we're going to get into some different ways of eating today that you were telling me about over this weekend, but I'd much rather dive into you as an individual. I'd much rather people know who you are, because from the outside, when you see you, you look very intimidating. You know, you're like how tall are you?
6'3".
Yeah, 6'3", so I'm 6'6", and you fill up the entire space whenever I'm with you. You can barely keep your shirt on tight enough. Like, you're a big dude, and you've got the most gentle heart, and you're so driven for excellence, but you're also driven for change. And as I've watched your evolution happening, I've seen so many ways that you've expanded your own consciousness, but you've also expanded your own heart. But I want you to take me back to this point in time. When I was reading your bio, you started working out at 14 years old. That's pretty young. What inside of you at that point in time at 14 made you go, you know what? There's something that I need to be strong about. There's something I need to be able to defend. Like, I need to be this size of a person. Like, what drove you at 14 to decide to jump into fitness?
So we're going a little bit earlier than 14.
Okay.
And it's probably 8 or 10. I had a short period of time in my life where I was bullied in the school. And that bullying, I couldn't really defend myself because I was always guided by my mom that fighting is bad. However, At some point, you have to stand up for yourself, and that's really healthy. And at the age of 10, I had stood up to my first bully, and I punched him in the face. And it was unexpected. He didn't really know what to do. And I didn't really know how I did it, but it worked out. And I kind of had a peace after that. No, I wasn't bullied anymore, and I realized that standing up for myself is really the only way to go to protect myself. And then I started realizing that my physical strength and size is a certain form of defense mechanism. As a child, I started thinking that way. So I started building up that body. So subconsciously, I would protect myself from any potential harm in the future. So at 14, I actually got my first membership, but I started working out at 10. So when I was 10 years old, we had a small gym in my apartment complex, and we were not allowed there without the supervision of an adult. So there was this neighbor of mine who was a bus driver who would take us there, and we would be hanging off the pull-up bars, doing some push-ups and lifting some 2 to 4 pound dumbbells, and just for fun. We didn't really know what we were doing. But at 14, I joined my first gym. So the real reason why I started working out was a defense mechanism from bullies that was triggered when I was 8 years old.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. As I was sharing with you yesterday, it's fascinating to me that most of us end up on the path that we end up at because of our pain, because of whether it's being bullied, whether it's being called, for some people being called fat or whatever it may be. I mean, when I was a kid, I was in junior high, had braces, I had glasses, I was short, believe that one or not, overweight, ate terrible food, and that will lead to a little bit of bullying, so I can relate to that feeling of wanting to be able to protect myself and knowing that if I'm a certain size, that people will leave me alone, and now you look at you and you built yourself into basically Superman. So from that perspective, you've been doing this now for 30 years, roughly? I mean, from 10
17,
to
basically.
17 years. Okay.
Well, no, sorry, because 20 years. When I take it from the very first time I started
That's right, 'cause
working
you're
out,
30.
it's going to be 20.
Yeah. It's really, it's quite remarkable when we see like what leads us on that path. And where were you born and raised?
Slovakia.
Tell me about that.
All right. So the childhood is very average Slovakian childhood. Everybody is kind of same social status, I would say. There's no rich families. There's no poor families. If we're talking about income differences, some parents might make $600 a month, and the richer parents will make $900 a month. So it's not like one family is driving Rolls Royce and the other family is, using a public transportation. Not at all. Some people were a little bit well off in terms of a couple $100 more a month than the others. So we were hanging out always on the block, listening to some music from the phone, eating sunflower seeds, drinking alcohol very early. I started drinking when I was 10, started smoking cigarettes when I was 9. And by the age of 14, I had my share of fun. By the age of 15, a lot of my friends from my group were actually sober. So by that time, we started really paying more attention to business and money because we realized that without the money, our reality is not going to change. However, I had a superpower. I had sisters in America. And these sisters flew me over to America, and they gave me experiences like no other child in Slovakia had. They took me to Disneyland. I don't think my sister knows what that triggered. My reality changed.
What did that trigger? I want to know.
I want to be rich.
So Disneyland made you want to be rich?
Yep.
Why? Why Disneyland?
Because I saw things that no other child has seen. My reality was completely flipped upside down. Listen. When we went out for a pizza as kids, the pizza was $2. There was 6 of us that had 40 cents. So we would have $2.40. Now we would get a drink and a pizza, and we would share pizza by a slice, and then we would share the drink too. Now I come to America, they take me to a restaurant, and every child in an American restaurant gets their own pizza and an apple juice. What the hell is going on here? I never experienced reality like that. I want to live like that too. And everybody just eats their meal, and there's one person who pays for the whole table? What? Like, we had to share everything. Every expense had to be shared. Like when I was 10, I offered my brother-in-law, who was very well off, money for the gas when he came to pick me up from the airport. That was my first question: how much is the gas? Because I had a little pocket money. My mom gave me $100 for the trip, So I thought I'm going to spend like $8 or $9 for the gas for my brother-in-law to pick me up. I didn't understand. He's picking me up for free. I didn't see that kind of reality where you just start up the car and the person who you're about to pick up is not paying for it. Because in my reality, you had to pay everybody for every task they did for you because they don't have extra money for that. Make sense?
Absolutely.
So now I come to the reality where money is not a problem. Now my brother-in-law takes me to the parties, to the big houses. He shows me Ferraris. He picks me up in a Bentley and all this. And I'm like, look, I can't process all of this. I had to take pictures because back home, nobody would believe me. Now they gave me all these experiences and they send me back home with it. So I'm here at 10 years old, back home after all these experiences, rolling around in my bed, thinking about and manifesting my future.
So at home, there's none of this reality. You literally like almost come over to America. It's like landing on literally another planet.
Yes.
Whole new experience. You go back home. How did that transform you when you went back home though? Because one of the things I know about you, let's see, you have your own coaching business at home, not here in the United States, and also at home. And also you've got your own fitness line of different supplements and brands. You have a beef company. You do a lot
Two
of
of them.
stuff. Oh, two of them,
Two beef
excuse me.
companies.
You've also got a lot in real estate. You have luxury car brands that you rent out. I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur. Like you do not sleep. You are nonstop. When for you is that point in time in your life when you're younger? How are you able to find mentors and people that can guide you down this path when everybody around you is barely getting by and everybody's basically, there's not enough to go around? So that mindset that is sitting here in America, which I think is one of the most freeing places to be personally, from that type of mindset, to see the amount of abundance that exists if someone's willing to work for it. Who do you go to? Like, where are you getting your knowledge or your experiences to be able to say like, hey, this is how I can input this in the world?
First of all, you dream. Second of all, you get to an age where you really need money. That's 15, 14, 15. I really need money to go out. I need at least $5 on me, $5 to $10. Now, how do I get it? I build up a capital, and I build up a $50 capital, and I go on Craigslist, and I watch used electronics. I buy a used electronics that's slightly broken, I fix it up, and I throw it back on the Craigslist with like a $15 to $20 markup. That would be a good day. If I get $5 to $10 extra, it's a still pretty good day. It's enough to cover my expenses. So at 15, I start hustling this way. I buy used electronics and I sell it with a little bit of profit. Now I have a friend. This friend's name is Philip. Now me and Philip, we would collect the money together because we had the same brain. We had the same mind. So I would put $50 towards a product. He would put $50. Now we would flip it for $140. So we split 20-20. Now the pinnacle of our lifestyle is to get a cab and get our own pizza. All right. So we would spend all the money on cabs and the pizza places because that was the pinnacle of a lifestyle at that age, that you made it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we would be practicing this. And then we would be growing into used cars, used motorcycles, and the capital would grow and the products would grow and then we would just resell it. And then we would use it at the same time. We would buy four-wheelers, use them up in the woods, and then sell them with a profit. So we have fun along with it.
Right.
And we learn how to fix them up, how to take apart the four-wheeler, put it back together so we don't have to pay people to do it for us. That's how we started hustling. At the age of 19, things change. Now I have a green card. Now I'm going to America. It's time to make real money. So as soon as I landed, business was on.
Really?
Every single day, every single night, I started 2 jobs immediately because now I can work legally for $10 an hour. Completely different dimension of money than what I was used to. Now I'm making hundreds and hundreds of dollars every week. Now I can make 100 or 200 back home. I can even climb up to maybe 800 to 1,000. So to me, working a minimum wage job in America at the age of 19 is a gold mine. I'm introduced to the whole nother level of money. So I start working and I start collecting all this money and saving up. And I would get to a point where I would be just saving up so much, and all of a sudden I'm at 10 grand, I'm at 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand. And I'm doing jobs that I don't really want to do. I'm a bouncer, I'm a server at this time. Then I go through different type of jobs. I usually get fired or I get an argument with the manager and I leave. I'm very hard to be employed. That's why I run my own businesses. My personality just doesn't go well with employment. I always want to have my own rules, but I always wanted to be a trainer. Fitness was something that always interested me. So I started competing in bodybuilding in America, and at the same time, I started training my clients. And that's how I started my first training business in person. But then I'm still in Minnesota, and for some reason, I have to go to Las Vegas. I don't know why.
Why do you have to go to Las Vegas? I mean, you go to Minnesota to Las Vegas. Was there something about Las Vegas that kind of drove you there? Or, I mean, it sounds like you're listening to your intuition, but was there anything else? You know, was this like another Disneyland for you?
2014, my sister buys me a ticket. My sister buys me a ticket to Las Vegas with my brother-in-law and with my father. I leave the airport. I look left, I look right, and I'm like, this is the city where I gotta be. I don't know why, man. I'm telling you, I don't know why. This is the city where I gotta be, and this is the city where I'm gonna die. It's clear, 100%. So I get out of the airport. We walk the city. I'm just impressed by everything that's going on with the city, and I feel the calling. So as soon as I go back to Minnesota, I start planning my escape to Las Vegas. But now I'm growing my business in Minnesota. Is doing well. I'm making good money, and I'm very happy with how my life is going. And pretty soon I kind of maxed out my income in this local area where I used to live. And you can't really push forward and push beyond what I was charging per hour because then nobody's going to sign up. It's just not an area for that. So then I met my wife, and I'm thinking, if I'm going to get married right now, I cannot bring her to Minnesota. Because if I do, we will never go to Las Vegas, and it's going to be just all childhood dream that I ever wanted to do, and it's done. Like, I'm like, we're going to Vegas right now, but what is that going to be in reality? I'm going to lose all the money. I'm going to lose all the income. Everything I built is gone.
Because it's all gone because you got to start all over again.
So I come to Las Vegas thinking I'll just start doing what I know, which is building my fitness business in person, training people one-on-one. Well, now that COVID happened. So what do? I lost all of my income. The expenses are rolling. I have a little bit of money saved up, maybe 100, 150 grand at that time. And, well, not a little bit, enough to survive, but I am a type of personality that cannot drain my bank account. I get fearful. I get worried. I get stressed out. I don't sleep if I only see the money being gone. So I need to come up with the way to make money and support our monthly expenses.
So I'm going to pause you for a second. So I met you during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So when you went to, and I met you when you were in Vegas. So when I had met you and what you were doing, and when that opportunity came in that group, which we'll talk about in a second, you were just barely kind of getting by at that point in time?
Yes.
That is fucking crazy to me. Because from the outside, I would never in a million years thought that. I would have thought you had your coaching business online for years. And the way that you showed up in that group and the way, like, this is just what it is. Like, you owned it. You didn't seem like you asked for permission. You just simply saw an opportunity and you took it. And now to see where you're at, not that long either, though. Like, it has not been that long if we think about it. You've exponentially grown. But going back, when we were talking about you going to Vegas, you got pretty emotional. What was that about? Take your time.
It's what people did for me.
Yeah. Because you were so used to, in your life, you always had to be the guy that was paying the money. You always had to be the guy paying the 40 cents for the pizza. You always had to be this person. And from what I gather, you were bullied as a young kid. You never could ask for any help. And because you asked for help, it shows a sign of weakness. And it also takes away control. And the first time in your life when someone gives you that opportunity to something you really wanted.
Yeah, so I really didn't need much to take off. I just needed to experience something different.
Yeah.
Let me experience something different, and I'm going to turn that into the gold. That's all I need. I don't need no support or motivation or tell me I've done a good job. I just need to experience it, and then I start visualizing and manifesting my own future. Now, the reason why it's emotional is because it's coming from my sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. They gave you that gift. It's beautiful they brought you here to Disneyland. It's beautiful that they brought you to Las Vegas. It's because they believe in you, man.
Also, the reason why it brings out the emotions because I'm not used to talking about it.
Yeah.
You're the first guy who's kind of getting this out of me. Usually when I talk about talk on the podcast, it's nutrition and stuff like that. And you get skilled talking about certain topics.
Sure.
You just memorize, you know what to talk about. These are the things I'm not used to talking about.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Like I think there's more strength and vulnerability than there is in hiding behind it, right? Like nobody really wants to talk about these things. But the thing is like you see someone like yourself, you've got all these businesses, you've created yourself into a millionaire, you're very healthy, you're all over the place. You have been like owning Europe basically at the moment in time for Carnivore. Like you're doing big things in this world. And so everybody thinks that you have it all figured out. And they think that, you've arrived at some place before, that they're, we had a conversation yesterday with one of your buddies, and the conversation was, I should be somewhere that I'm not right now. Why am I not there? And my whole focus is that, listen, we're all on this journey. We're all experiencing these things. And most men are hiding because they don't want to talk about these things. But the problem is so is all the other men. Everyone else is hiding too because they don't want to talk about them. And because they don't talk about them, then everybody thinks that they're alone. And the problem is that when we think we're alone, then we start to think that we're on our own little island. And that's the lie. We're all one. We're all connected. We're all brothers. And we're all brothers in arms. And if we can come together, we're much stronger, because when we think we're separate on an island, that's the problem, right? Yeah. Like that's the problem. That's why I was asking you those questions, because it occurred to me that there was something magical that happened for you about your sister being able to help you, and about you being able to see like, oh, wait a minute, there's other people that are here to help me. There's other people here to help me grow, because that's what it's about, man. Like you can't take any of the stuff with you. Your success is not going to fucking matter one day. Your impact, believe it or not, will matter or it won't matter. But it doesn't matter, because what does matter is the people that we're impacting, the people we're helping,
Yes. And that's why I view my sisters, from my perspective, like queens, like the goddesses. They really allowed me to see a different part of the world that triggered all these dreams. And I just took action for these dreams. I nonstop was working from my 20 to 30. There's no fun stories. I don't have fun stories to tell you from parties. I don't have fun stories to tell you with friends and all that. I have none of that. I was building businesses. So now we're in 2020, and I come to Vegas, and I lost all my income from Minnesota, so I'm going to restart a business that I know, right? Wrong. COVID. All the gyms closed. Fuck. What do I do now? I got to figure out a way how to provide for myself, so I start recording videos online. I had online coaching going, but it was making very tiny money because I never really paid attention to it. I didn't think online coaching can be a big deal until it became the only option. So I started really talking about Carnivore and H3, and I was using H3 at home. Now, coincidentally, I ended up in a good position because everybody's locked at home. So the views on your videos go through the roof because everybody spends time on their phone. And also, you have a product that is the best product to use for the home workout, and people are forced to work out at home. So that became very interesting. I started talking about fasting and carnivore, and I started signing up all these people because when they couldn't move outside, all the restrictions and stuff, they at least wanted to move inside. So I started signing people left and right, like many clients. So I went from broke to making quadruple the money that I was used to within the first 3 months.
What's beautiful about that, right? Because nobody knows what X3 is, by the way. It's probably listening right now. But what's beautiful about that is that you listened and you did something about it. And you didn't know how you were going to do it. You didn't know why you were supposed to do it, but you knew you were supposed to do it. And you listened to that calling, which I don't think many people realize the power in that listening. That listening can change everything forever. And anybody that has been on their own journey, they know that it's not some, linear path where it's just, from A to Z. There's a lot of things that happen in between there. But just to give the audience a little bit of understanding, because I want to give a little backstory here. So X3 is it's a plate, and there's bands on there, and there's another piece of metal on there, and you can do all kinds of different workouts. And what you're doing is you're pushing until exhaustion, and you don't need a lot of weight, but you can put on a lot of muscle. And so here's Daniel. I had actually ordered the X3 because I was like, I'm not going to sit in here during the pandemic, get fat, smoke weed, drink, and destroy my life and be like a lot of things I'm seeing going on in this world. I'm actually going to find something I can do because the gyms are closed down, but I don't want to like wither away. I want to make sure I keep my mind strong, my body strong. And I would see videos of you, and here's this guy that's 6'3", built like a house, and just using this piece of equipment and talking about carnivore, which I didn't know a whole lot about, and showing this weight. And I thought, man, this is really interesting. And then I said, you know what? Like anything in life, I need a good coach. And so I remember reaching out to you and connecting with you and being like, man, this guy's just a solid, down to earth, and he will push you. Like, all right, no, Dalton, more. I need you to push more. Like, more. And so it was that ability for me to continue to push. And through that, you and I became friends. Like, we became like, we'd have these really in-depth conversations. And I had no idea that that's when it started for you. That's the first time I'm ever learning this today.
So for the same reason that you signed up with me, many other people
Of
signed up
course.
with me as well. And then I started making really good money. I got a little crazy. I bought a bunch of cars that I needed. I bought some Porsches and Mercedeses and Rolls Royces and all sports cars. Bought some stupid things, but it still wasn't significant amount of money that would actually really impact my financial situation. So I had my share of fun. Then I really collected my mind together. I have this person who I've been talking to for so long, since 2015. He also has been my client, Sean Johansson. But then he turned into my business coach and mentor. He would tell me what to do and stuff. And he would guide me the proper direction, but also he would show me the world of real estate. And he made me believe that I belonged there. So I started buying real estate and rented it out. And then I started investing in stocks. And I had my stock portfolio for a very long time, but I couldn't really put big money in there. So I was putting a little money in there, at least keep the consistency going if I can't execute with big numbers. But when the big numbers came, at the time for me, I started pushing big numbers into the real estate and stocks. And I started new businesses. I started a supplement company and the farms, and bought a couple luxury cars and rented them out. And I tried to build a little bit different avenues of the income, right? Real estate pays you the rent. Now the stock portfolio pays you the dividends. Now the luxury cars give you the rent. So then you get profits from the company, or the supplement company and the beef company. So now we got to a point where I got all these paths started for me. And the only thing I have to do is to grow them. And now the hardest part is done. Is to break through, let people know about you, let people know what you do, what you're about. And now you just have to continue delivering valuable information for free to everybody. And when those who are really interested in what you do will reach out to you and they will sign up. Now, one thing I can guarantee you now, I have the best programs I've ever had in my coaching program, because I go through evolution myself. I learn about human body better and better and better every single year. And I learn about the people's psychology as I go through the clients. Just in last couple of years, I've gone through over 1,600 clients in the last 3 years. So I had a chance to work and gain experience from working with many people online. And based on the results and based on the paths that we took during these transformations, I learned more about human psychology. And based on that, I can adjust my programs so they suit better for each individual. So I would say every single person who signs up with me now, for example, for weight loss, I guarantee I can make him lose weight. If you do what I tell you, I will customize everything to your needs, where you're actually going to get to the goal. And when you go through the hardship, I know what you're going through. I've been there myself. So through all these programs and through all these transformations, I went myself. So now you got a very high quality coaching that is delivering results. And now you share these results. Now the results is what triggers the biggest sales, because everybody is interested in someone who looks like them and made a big change.
Yep.
Now, if I post a picture of myself, let's say I go to sauna, so I get the veins popping. As you can see, there's not much veins popping, but I have videos where veins are popping all over my thighs, legs. Well, that's not how I look in reality. This is how I look in reality. But I can make a perfect video that's going to get a lot of attention with all the veins and everything through sauna, through doing 30, 40 reps with the H3, bicep curls, some triceps, but it's not going to interest that many people. What is going to interest many people is, for sign up, is someone who was like them and got themselves better. It's someone who was 300 pounds and got down to 200 pounds and looks better. And all these metabolic benefits came from it in terms of better hemoglobin A1C, better insulin sensitivity, lower triglycerides, higher HDL, and a lower CRP, which is the inflammation in the body. They gain muscle, they feel better, their cognitive health has improved. So now they want to be like them. So after these transformations, as I'm going through, so I did this big load of signups, and then I produce results, and I really take care of my people. And then I share these results, and those results now trigger more and more interest. And pretty much it's your responsibility. If you do what I do, you got to focus on the results. Result of every single client matters. Matters to them, it matters to you, and you do it genuinely from the heart. Now, when I talk to my clients, I don't work. I have great conversations. We're having fun. And just like with you, with some people, you can really become friends. Some people just want to talk to you. Okay, what am I supposed to do? Consultation is 4 minutes, done. And I even feel guilty sometimes ending up after such a short time. I'm like, I can deliver more value, but like honestly, they're doing everything what they're supposed to, and they're getting all these results. So there's really nothing to talk about beyond, and they don't want to talk personal stuff. That's fine. I'm a trainer. I get my position. So some people, on the other hand, want to become friends with you, and they start building and connecting with more and more entrepreneurs. And now they fly in Vegas, and then you meet for the dinner, and now you have actually more in common than you thought. And now the future business is in potential, right? Because you just became friends. You never know where this goes. They share phone numbers. So that's how I started networking with many of my clients who fly to town. And now people who follow me and they know I'm in Las Vegas, they oftentimes reach out to me. It's like, hey, I'll be in Vegas this and that date. So that's also the reason why I had to call into Las Vegas. It wasn't just for my personal business, but also because all this networking is happening in Vegas. I get messages every week from people. I'll be in Vegas here and there. Then I meet these people, and then we come up with stuff that I never thought we can come up with.
Yeah. I notice the same thing when I'm in Vegas. I'm like, hey, Daniel, I'm in Vegas. Let's go get a steak or,
Yeah.
or whatever. One of the things, too, that shocked me about you when we were talking about cars and we're talking about all these fancy things, how much you love to drift cars.
Drift.
You love to drive fast. You love to drift. Like, you've got that little kid in you that loves to come out. I've watched it. I've watched that play. When it comes to Eastern Europe, right? How all of a sudden did you get this massive following in Eastern Europe versus like the U.S.? Because here you are, you're in the U.S. this entire time. You're not spending much time in Eastern Europe, but yet majority of your business is in Eastern Europe.
I'm not even sure. For a long time, I just paid attention to making videos in my own language and on my own fan pages, and I just triggered more interest back home. But now I really never focused on growth of my social media until about 2 months ago. 2 months ago, I said, okay, let's focus on the growth of the social media, and I hired a marketing team and actually people who help me with that who are really, really awesome. They're also from back home. And now we have this plan to expand on the social media. So far, I was only focusing on a certain avenues that have been growing my business and growing my income. But now, you'll know this better than anybody. Something changes at 30. I don't know why. I'm a young guy. I'm noticing something changes. First, you want to do a lot of stuff for yourself. And then you get to a point where you just want to have a big impact. And you know you have the knowledge, and you know you have the message that can have a big impact on many people. So now you just want to spread the message. That's where I'm at now. I'm not even that interested to buy another Rolls Royce for myself. I could be careless. If it's a white one, I won't even be excited I got the black one. You see what I mean?
Right.
There's only so much you need for yourself. As long as I can repeat my daily habits, I'm fine. So when you get to a point where there's no more cars and stuff that you can buy for yourself that will make you happy, what's your mission now? And that's what changed at 30. I got rewired. I don't know why. That's probably life. You tell me. But this is what happened to me. So I started really focusing on spreading the message, and I started focusing more on, okay, let's grow this social media platform and let's spread this message to as many people as possible. But I also had to change the terminology and how do I get this message out, because I have certain ways of doing things, which a lot of them involve some intermittent fasting, a lot of them involve some carnivore diet. Majority people in the population, they don't do fasting or carnivore diet, or they don't measure food, or they don't weigh food. So I had to custom my message to trigger the interest, and then puts these people in the group where they find more detailed information. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So I started focusing more or spreading the message to the large amount of people, to the masses, because I really don't need more stuff for myself anymore. I want to have an impact right now. Right now, I want to have an impact. I want to have hundreds and thousands of people changing their lives daily because of the advice I'm giving. So one-on-one is great, and I'll still keep doing that forever. But now I want to have impact on masses.
Yep. To answer your question, because you said you tell me about the whole thing about 30 and all that. I don't think it matters about the age. What I do think it matters is this. Is if you get to the point in time and you've had nice cars, nice houses, experiences, and all those things, you recognize that all that stuff's going to gather dust. You recognize that it doesn't make you any happier than what you once thought it would be, right? But there is something so interesting about human beings when we are in service to others, there becomes true joy. Like not happiness, joy. Like think about it for you. I mean, 1,600 people you have served. I use the word service on purpose. You have served these people. Think about the impact that that work does for those people. You've got people that have never been able to lose weight. You've got women that maybe they've just had a child and they're trying to take off a little bit more weight to be able to build that confidence. You got businessmen that are basically, they're tired, they feel weak, they feel powerless, and you're giving them their power back. You're giving them back their purpose in their body and reconnecting them back. You got people that are, like your wife, autoimmune disease. You figure out how to solve this autoimmune disease that she's facing, and many, 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 many other stories that one life that you touch impacts multiple lives and more and more. And so you see the stuff that you have is like, yeah, this is nice. This is a byproduct of, wait for it, service. It's a byproduct of those things. And okay, now that I've had the stuff and the things and the businesses, and I know my basic necessities are covered, what now can I do to impact the planet? Because as we start to get older, we want to make sure that our life has meaning. We want to make sure that this experience we have has relevance in the grand scheme of the cosmos, right? We want to make sure that it fucking meant something, and the time and the energy and the effort and the knowledge and the lessons and all of it meant something. And I would assume, I could be wrong here, but there's probably lots of young men or little boys that are like young, that are sitting in your country that you want to be able to show them, hey, listen, it doesn't have to be like this. It can be completely different. And in order to be able to make that shift and that change, because we're always just trying to heal our little boy. You know what I mean? We're always going back to that in some form or another. But if you can make that change to help these young men or girls or whatever, that's what matters.
Yes. So you want to have a big impact and share everything that you know in every single aspect to the best possible, to your best ability, to as many people. Because when the material stuff doesn't make you happy now, what makes you truly happy? And you said something interesting, that you get the joy of serving. Yes, because now you feel like you're doing something that's actually making a change. And like you said, if you impact one life, that actually has an impact on more lives that you don't even know about, because people within the family now get, let's say, more productivity of that person who lost weight. Now, maybe they're more active, they make more money, they play more with the kids, they have more energy. So a lot more people will be impacted. Now imagine what happens if you do that to thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people. These are the thoughts that I'm sitting with in my head. I'm thinking about it. How do I get this on the next level?
Yeah, you're no longer manifesting just for yourself.
Those are kids' dreams.
You're manifesting for change.
You're manifesting for yourself when you're a child. Now it's time for the adult dreams.
I love that. I love that. Those are kids' dreams, and these are adult dreams. I remember when I met you in Vegas, we went and had a steak, and I sat and was having conversations with you about spirituality and a bunch of things, and I could see very quickly that where you were at in your life at that time, there was not a whole lot of awareness there.
None.
But then a year ago, I looked today, by the way, a year ago, you sent me a message and it says, hey, question for you. Have you tried DMT? And I was like, that was in December of last year. And since then, you've had 200 DMT trips, which is a fair amount. It's actually more than anyone I know has ever had. And the question I have for you is, what started you off to even think about doing that?
2 of my best friends died. Couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the pain. And this was the first time in my life where I'm really at the bottom. I'm down on my knees. It's not the emotional pain I'm used to. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to handle it. So I was introduced to DMT. And I truly, now, first of all, if you told me about DMT 5 years ago, I'll tell you you're a drug addict. Like, it's absolutely insane. You don't do that. That was my understanding. However, when I felt the pain, I started looking for God. Everybody, when they feel pain, they'll turn to God. Regardless if you're atheist, regardless who you are, you're talking to something and you ask for help. Whatever it is, you're asking for help from a higher power. And if you haven't been there, you'll get there. You're not going to go through 80 years of your life smiling. There's something's going to happen. Where are you going to feel the pain? So I'm in this state of pain and I'm looking for the God. And I can't help myself. And what my consciousness, as you experienced back then in Vegas and Steakhouse, is zero. I have no understanding of spirituality whatsoever. I'm actually rejecting it. And I'm judgmental towards people who do that.
Sure.
I had to stop that and I had to change my understanding. And I got into these spiritual ceremonies and I opened up my consciousness and I started viewing and perceiving reality in a different form. With my personality, when you want to do something, you want to do it big. You want to understand all about it, whether it's a business, whether it's spirituality, whether it's human body, the diet, the exercise. You want to get the most out of it. You want to be the expert in it. And that's what triggered so many experiences with the DMT by myself and then joining the ceremonies and just being around people who know a thing or two about it, because I wanted to learn as much as possible about it. And it was triggered by the pain I couldn't handle.
Yeah, when we sat last night and had conversations, it was like I met two different people. It was like the man that I met when we were drifting cars. Right?
You didn't like it though. Yeah, okay, stop.
I mean, yeah, I was like, all right, we're good here, buddy. On the freeways, I'm like, we're good, man. Like, I value my life. You know what I mean? I value this experience, and these things are fun. And also, I think I'm putting myself in danger.
Yeah.
And the danger I'm putting myself in, if something happens, I can't make any more impact. Right? Like, there's certain things I always look at and I go, like, this is fun, and what is the prices I pay for that fun? Right? So, looking back at our conversations we've had yesterday and that we've been having today, what was the moment when you tried DMT for the first time that kept you on this journey? So when you say, like, we kind of briefed over this a little bit, when you say you lost two of your best friends, go back to that a little bit. I know it's a little bit to feel through all that experience, but tell me, like, what that was like and what led you to that. Like, understand that you were looking for God, but there's a lot of pieces I think you left out.
I started listening to NDEs on YouTube. I want to hear about death. I know nothing about it. And listening to the people who talked about the NDE, which is the near-death experience, which means they died and they came back. So those are stories where people got hit by a car, and on the way to the hospital, as they were transporting the body, their soul was out of the body in the ambulance looking down at their own body. And in that state, they had access to different things. And I don't know if I believed it, but it was just good to hear that there's something after life, because I just lost my friends. I wanna know there wasn't just lights out and they're gone forever. I want to know there's something. So I just listen to these stories. I don't know if I believe it. I have to listen to it at this point. I have to. So I'm listening to it for months. Doesn't help. It helps me clarify a couple of things, but my pain is still there. But they were mentioning a lot DMT in these stories that is similar. And it triggered interest. I'm like, I want to see where they went. I want to see what's after when you die. So that's when I got into it, because I heard about it a lot in these NDE stories. And that's how I got into the whole concept of spirituality and God and higher power and opening up my consciousness.
So since that point in time, you've had that experience, what is your understanding or your relationship to something higher than yourself? Call it God, call it, source, the universe.
So through all these experiences, I collected a little concept for myself, and I believe that spirituality is a topic where nobody's right. You have a right to believe in whatever you want. In my understanding, that God is the creation of everything. And it is a super intelligence that is single emotion, which is love, unconditional, which humans cannot replicate. And this intelligence is growing by collecting experiences from everything, every electron, every energy that's in every universe and every existence. And by collecting these experiences, it is expanding its knowledge and consciousness. And when I had this experience on one of the DMT trips, when I saw that power, it was only one time. And the love I experienced was unexplainable. It's every single cell of your body, of your spirit, of your consciousness is vibrating with love. And you never felt something like this. And when I saw this and I saw how powerful this is, and it's bigger than everything that's ever been created, and it decides to vibrate at the vibration of love, who am I to change it? Now imagine you know everything. Everything means everything about every existence, about every molecule, and you experienced everything that every molecule experienced in every universe. And you look at your knowledge and you'll be like, you know, well, love is the best thing. All right, who am I to change it? With my knowledge, I'm trying to figure out what humans are supposed to eat. Like, how dumb I am compared to that, right? So then you get inspired.
I love the self-awareness of I'm trying to figure out what humans should eat to be like the optimal in that place. And you're like, wait a minute, there's something much more expansive than even this little molecule of thought that I'm having.
Something that will literally fry your brain if you see it. Like, you cannot process the amount of information this energy has. So that energy is connected to all of us. And I see it as the souls of ours have a free will from this energy, from the God, so we can experience whatever we want. And whatever we want to experience, it expands the God's knowledge, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So if you have a free will, that means you can do whatever you want. Now, in terms of life, I collected these experiences where I was shown a couple of places. One of them was Akasha Records, where there were these huge halls and halls and halls full of scripts, and those looked like old Egyptian scripts. And there were these entities serving these scripts and moving them around. I was asking these questions like, what is this place? And I was told this is Akasha Records. I'm like, what does that mean? This is where we store all the scripts that has been pre-written by the souls, that what they want to experience in lives. I'm like, hold on. So you're telling me that everything is pre-wrote? And they said, yes. I'm like, all right. So why the hell would somebody write in their script they want to survive the death of their child? It's like, why would somebody want to go through such pain? And this entity kind of looked at me like, what? That's like the dumbest thing I ever heard. Like, it wasn't a positive look. I didn't understand what I'm asking. It's like, that's not the parent who's writing a script. It's the child on its own that's writing the script. Every soul writes their own script. Okay, so what's the point of the script if you don't remember it? Like, you're born and you forget. It's like you have something that is called intuition. That's your GPS system on the world, in the earthly realm. And that intuition is the only thing you get. You're not going to get an email. We're not going to send you a mail. Hey, you're on the wrong path. You're going to feel it. So if you're upset in your insurance company box that you don't belong here, and you don't like this reality, and you don't like the drive to work, and you hate the same exits and the same highway and the same routine, that's your intuition screaming you don't belong here. You got a bigger purpose to serve. You have to follow that intuition, because that intuition leads you towards the script that you've wrote for yourself, that what you really want to experience. Your point of incarnation was written in this script. If you don't stick to it, you don't survive the experiences that were the only reason why you came here in the first place. So that's when I started realizing how powerful the inner voice is. And I only follow it whether it's going to bring good or bad. But then I got into a deeper understanding that there's no such a thing as good or bad, because it's only the experience. Nothing is judged. You're the only judge when you have the life review. You're going to decide whether or not you've done things correctly or incorrectly. However, when you get to this point of separating the good from the bad, and you're shown that there is no good or bad experience, you have much less fear following your intuition, because you can jump into the situations that you don't know the outcome of, but you know that it doesn't matter if it's going to be good or bad, because the bad is a lesson that is going to ultimately lead you towards the good outcome, towards your vision, ultimate vision. So when you visualize something and you have a goal in your life, it doesn't mean that the path is going to be beautiful. It might need to shape you up to handle it. The way you're going to be shaped up might not be pretty, because the universe doesn't separate pretty from the good. Let's say you want to be a businessman. Okay, let's say you're broke, you have no money, but you have ideas, you have dreams, and you're married, you have 2 kids. Now you're manifesting future of business. So the universe is looking at you. All right, kid. First of all, bad partner. This wife is not right for this path. Gone. holy shit, I just got divorced. I lost both of my kids and I have no custody. Mhm. I did not ask for this. I want to be a businessman. Hold on, guy. You are about to be, but I'm shaping up the path for you to become one. And you didn't have the right people in your life. And this is the direction that you have to walk. You have to walk it on your own. And then you might be introduced to a businesswoman who has the mindset like you, and then you start building together. Example. So the negative experiences will happen on the way so you can become the human that you desire to become. It's not going to be all pretty. However, was it really bad? Well, the universe is not looking at good or bad. It's like, this is what you want, right? That's, yeah, sure. Okay, I'll make it happen for you. This is the path and walk it. And then you just follow your intuition. The intuition is going to put you through situations that will whether give you exactly what you want and you're like, wow, this is amazing, or it will shape you up to become the human that you need to be to handle what you want.
There's a lot to unpack there. We do not have the time to unpack all of it, but there's so many of the things that you said that I agree with, but I know. It's not like, oh, I read this. I have the knowledge of exactly what you said, right? We never know where we're going to end up at, that the universe is always working in our favor. It is our job, however, though, to walk in the same path of the things that we ask that we want. And remember, as we're walking there, that we're asking for these things, because it's not always easy. And it's never, like I was saying earlier, it's never linear. There's a lot of different things that we have to do. How is your experience between, going from coaching, diving deep into DMT, your entrepreneurial journey? Like, you've had so many different journeys. How's that shaped your practices with your clients that have most of the time probably gone through very little of this?
I'm much more empathetic. I care more about feelings. I listen more about the stories, and I can actually gain much more knowledge from the stories that people tell me. If I hear a story of somebody that they went through this, and this, well, if I face that situation in my life, I already know how it can potentially end up if you made these kind of decisions. So the person tells you the story, this is how I decided on the path, and this is how the path ended. So if I'm going to face the same path or the same decisions I made in my life, I can remember now, okay, this guy already went through it. So, and I know how it ended up. So I can manage my decisions better based on that. I learn from other people better. And then I go through my own journeys myself, and I'm not emotional about it. Whether it's hard or good, it doesn't really matter. I lost fear. I lost fear because of the certain experiences that I've done were not reasonable, let's say, not smart. However, there's no good or bad experience even within the psychedelic world. So certain bad experiences, in quotes, what most people would label them, shaped me up to a person that lost fear of the outcome, of the consequence. So that helped me a lot to continue on my journey without any fear, or with a fear of potential outcome that I don't want, because I realized that a negative experience might be just a lesson to shape you up to a person that you have to become.
Right. Yeah, it's we never know who we're going to have to ask to become to get what we want. Ever. Like, ever in life. So over the last 24 hours, you and I have discussed a lot of things. And one of the things that keeps gnawing at me a little bit, and that is that because you're a guy that typically has a path, a way to get from A to B to Z, sometimes, and this is really for the listeners as much as it is for you, and sometimes we think that we're going somewhere and it has to look a certain way. And last night we were talking about a lot of your journey, like you're here in the US, this is where you want your most impact, and it makes sense why you would want it because you came here, you're in Las Vegas, this is where you're doing everything, and yet the world is leading you back home where you started at. And for you, it seemed like it was this very difficult thing to put these pieces together, that, oh my gosh, I'm being led back home. I'm not putting any energy in. I'm not putting any effort into, or very little compared to what I put over here. And it's leading me back that way. Why do you think it's so hard for us as people that are moving forward so quickly and want to do things in such a big way to see the obvious that sits in front of us?
Just we're impatient, and we don't have knowledge. We don't know that this could be just a path. Like you mentioned, linear. Well, I'm sure that you experienced on all these trips and all this huge gain of the knowledge that there's nothing linear. in universe. Everything is
Zero.
constantly in motion. There is no straight line.
Nature, there's no straight lines anywhere.
There's always a geometry, always a geometry. So when you look at the path that the universe is taking you in your life, it might be this way. We're going to go here first, then we're going to go here first, then we're going to go here first. But only thing we want is the outcome. And if we don't understand that that outcome has to go through a certain path, then we're frustrated about it and we're beating ourselves up. And maybe to a certain degree also considering ourselves as a failure because you're trying so hard to go from point A to point B instantly, but you're not willing to take the direction that the universe is actually taking you with. Because the universe is looking at you like, dude, I know what you want. You think about it all the time. I know what you're manifesting. Just start walking the path. Here's the path. I made it for you. So I started accepting this, and Akash actually helped me a lot with it when he told me, like, you're fighting the current. When I was frustrated, I called him. And then he said, you're fighting the current because the path is very obvious. How the universe is taking you to the overall outcome. It knows everything that you want. It is creating the path for you. You are just resistant because you don't want to take that path. And it was because of my misunderstanding. And misunderstanding is the reason why we don't walk the path that the universe is making for us.
Because universe, you have to walk it with trust. Like deep trust and deep reverence. And sometimes that trust can be very difficult because I think, at least I know for myself, I want to control things. I want it to be my way. It needs to look like this. This is the outcome I already had. I've already written this down. This is what it's going to be. It's like when you write a business plan, you're writing it out. And you're like, okay, it's going to be like this. And there we go. And my experience always, it's never as I see it. It's usually something even greater. So when listeners or viewers are watching this, the question I have is, what question could they ask themselves that would get them to think a little bit more like you think, meaning to see things in a much more expansive way? What would be one prompt that if they were to write down in a journal, that'd be like, this would be the question you'd want to ask yourself. That'd be the most powerful impact that they can make in their lives.
So ask yourself,
Yeah.
whether or not you're serious about what you are manifesting. Because oftentimes you want things in your life, but kind of want it. I see it also in the weight loss. Yeah, I want to lose weight, but when it comes to taking an action, there's no action behind it. So you might have all the dreams and all the visions, but if you don't take an action, nothing's going to happen. The universe is not going to make it work for you. Like, you're not going to wake up, walk outside, there's Bugatti. Where is it from? Well, the universe put molecules together and built Bugatti for you overnight. No, not happening. You got to put the work in. So taking an action, I would say, is the most important thing, because manifesting and dreaming, all of us can do. But taking an action is the second thing. And you only take action when you're serious about it. So ask yourself if you're really serious about what you want. See it in the weight loss, see it in the business. I spent countless time, and I'm never going to do it again, but I spent countless time explaining all of my business strategies, everything I do, to my friends, to people around me. Worthless. I literally spit my brain out. I was exhausted after my speech, and people took no action whatsoever. No action whatsoever. I wasted my time because it's an interesting topic.
What does spiritual capitalist mean to you? Because I see you living this now, right? Like, see you stepping into such a different way into your purpose, into what you're creating in the universe. Like, what does that mean to you, those words?
I think you combined two most powerful things in the world, which is the spirituality and the capitalism, which means that you're producing business, and now you're creating job opportunities for other people. You're providing food for many, many families. You got many, many, many employees, many mouths that depend on you doing well. And a person in that position has to have greater understanding of life and afterlife and better consciousness than, for example, a person who doesn't have that kind of a responsibility. So I think in the world of business, you have to have some type of a spiritual understanding. And when you do so, you're just going to become so much better leader, and you're going to be able to expand your ideas that are going to be bliss for everybody who you're going to impact.
Yeah, because with your journeys and all of your experiences, would you say that you've done quite a bit of internal healing?
Working on it still. There's still a lot of stuff I got to work on.
I love that. I mean, I think that there's, including me, right, including myself, there is no rival. Like, I always say this, there's no rival. You're never going to be healed 100%, but there's always going to be different pieces that we're unveiling and seeing within ourselves, and we're going to see our own shadow. We're also going to see our own like bliss, right? We're going to see everything. And I love that you say that you're still working on it, because if you told me you've got it all figured out, I would probably think that you're full of shit, because there's so many layers to all this.
There's so many layers, and I feel it. I feel it myself. No, I'm not healed 100%. There's a lot of stuff going through my head that I need to figure out. A lot of stuff going through my head that have impacted me and changed me. Like I told you, I'm 30. Something changed. What changed? I don't know. Is this age? I don't know. Figuring this out, because I was told by many people, yeah, you get to this age and your mind shifts. You start thinking different. And that's what I feel like I'm going through right now. And it takes a lot of internal work to really figure out what is even going on and where is this leading, and how do I take the best control of it, and how do I create the best outcome out of it.
Yeah. How many journeys have you made from the head to the heart?
I don't know if I made it once.
That's one of the things that
I don't know if I got there.
I keep listening over the last, after knowing you and yesterday, everything seems to be so mental about everything, right? Like the pieces and the universe and and how the puzzle pieces and all that stuff. What I would invite you to do over the next while as you're going through this work is really, instead of thinking like from here, like feel from here. It's a big difference, because they say the longest journey that we have to make in our lives, the longest, is from our head to our heart. That place, though, there's such sacredness in it, because that's where the soul, I believe, that's where the soul sits, right? Is in the space of the heart. And so we all want to solve everything through the consciousness, through our thoughts, through all of these things. But if we can stand this place of the feeling of things. So what I see a lot of times is the heart is that, like the little boy, like that little boy that was either scared or confused or lost or trying to make sense of everything. Like I think that's where really a lot of times, at least in me, when I put my hand on my heart and I think, I'm like, all right, what does that little boy need? Not the man, not the teenager, not the person looking to seek things, but like, what does that little boy need? Okay, that little boy needs to feel safe, needs to feel heard, needs to feel wanted, needs to feel belonging, needs to feel seen, and that it's okay. And the words that come up to me a lot is, it's okay to be me. You know, it's okay. And the logic in any of that is not logical. It's just the exact opposite, right? It's a feeling. It's not trying to dissect the universe through pieces and puzzles. And I think sometimes with psychedelics, we can get there a lot. Like we're always trying to uncover and, dissect the laws of the universe and all this knowledge. And I keep hearing you say the knowledge, the knowledge, the knowledge, the knowledge. But the question is like, what inside of you is asking to be healed that keeps driving you to find that knowledge?
This is the first time I'm having this conversation. I really don't know. And that's why I put a hand on my heart. It doesn't mean nothing, or it doesn't feel nothing, because I've never opened up that door, never looked into it. To me, it's unfamiliar.
Yeah.
And that's the next level. It's a constant work. I just entered this world of understanding recently.
Yeah, you blasted yourself into this world.
I blasted
You didn't
myself.
kind of go into this world. You literally like ran 700 miles an hour, jumping through 12 walls to see what was on the other side of this thing. Like you didn't just kind of put your foot in the water. I don't think you kind of do anything. And so when you're running at that type of pace, what I want to make sure of for you is that you're not running towards a wrong target, because it's often said that the greatest thing we can do is on our life is enjoy the journey. It's not about the actual destination. It's about the journey. But if we take the wrong road, we're never going to get to where we really want to be, right? And so if we're just seeking either, you've been seeking financial resources, you've been seeking that freedom, you get to the end of that path and you go, fuck, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is something completely different than what I experienced. I see the same thing happening in psychedelics. I see the same things happening in a lot of different ways. And as you said, there is no right way, there is no wrong way. As I would say, there's only a way that works or doesn't work. That's the one thing I always think of. Does this work for me? Is this not working for me? Is this getting me closer to my path? Is it not? Because there's going to be a point in time where you're going to wake up, your mission is going to be done, your work that you're doing is going to be done. You'll have worked 80, 90 hours a week. You'll have done all of these things, and you're going to get to the end of the path, and you're going to ask yourself, what was the fucking point? What was the point? And the point is to be able to connect in so deep with yourself that you know yourself, not from a logical perspective, but you know your soul's calling. And I'm listening to you, and you do know it. You've been following the breadcrumbs this whole entire time. You've been listening to intuition the entire time. You may not have known what it was called. You've been playing with universal laws. You've been playing with manifestation. You've been playing with all these different things, not quite clear what it is. But for not being quite clear what it is, you've sure dominated it because you have work ethic like most people I've never met before. But the question I would have for you when you get to that point in time and you see that you're standing at the end of the gate and you've done all this work, what was the point in all of it?
Impacting as many people as I could in a positive way.
How are you going to do that?
Through nutrition, through spiritual understanding, and through business. These are three things that I love to talk about. These are three things that interest me. These are things that I truly believe I can help with and genuinely change people's lives. Like if you change your physique and your health and you go from obese to fit, your life does change. Your confidence changes, your mind changes, your metabolic health, if we're talking biologically, changes. Everything changes. So you change to a better person. Now, if you don't have money and I can give you an advice and I can guide you through the course of how to start making money and how to use this method and a strategy, your life is going to change because the quality of your life and the people who are dependent on you is going to increase. Now, with the spirituality, if you are very, very disconnected like I was, you go through pain like an antelope. You have no understanding of anything. Your understanding of life is eat, go to restroom, die. That's what I had in my life until the death of my friends happened. So when you grab that low consciousness and you expand it, people will be much more aware and they will have much better understanding and they will go through the tough times in life a lot easier and they won't be afraid because it's all just part of the life. And my understanding, the whole point of life is just going through emotions. Ups and downs, you have to feel it both. This is the dimension where it's allowed. This is the dimension where you got the sickness, you got heartbreaks, you got cancers, you got broken bones, you got emotional pain, you got the loss of the loved ones. Then you have the opposite, the duality like we talked about yesterday of everything. Then you experience joy and love and health and peak performance and all of that at the same time. So you go through ups and downs just simply to collect the experience and become more knowledgeable soul. So if you can go through these experiences and emotions and you help people on the way and you didn't hurt intentionally other people, I think you played the game right.
Well said. You don't intentionally hurt other people. You play the game right. I love that. What I'm excited about for you is for you to continue down the path that you're continuing down. Like what you've done in your life is very remarkable. And I know what I know about you is when I pose a question to you that you haven't thought about before, remember this. I know you want to solve this with your mind. Like I know it. Like I know inside you're like, okay, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to figure out exactly what it is. I'm going to get to that point in time. You cannot solve something with the same mindset that you showed up to the party with. Meaning if you're trying to solve it with the same mindset that you got there, you're never going to find it. So you have to get in that other place. I would love to see you in this place and time of starting to do breath work, meditation, put down the DMT, step away from that perspective, at least for a while, and start to then ask yourself, just sit in quietness and ask yourself, what does my heart want? What does my heart want? Not what does my mind want? Not, but what does my heart want? And then get that message, maybe write it down, start asking that, and then start to guide from that place. Because, brother, you're going to move mountains no matter what you do. But when you can gain the hearts and the minds of the people, they'll move mountains for you.
These are the things that I don't hear. I don't have these conversations within my circles. I'm always on my own. And you kind of have to separate yourself when you're trying to build something and you know that people around you are not on the same vibe. So you kind of separate yourself and you lock yourself in a closet of your own thoughts and you only know what you know. So this is the first time when I hear about a hard conversation, because when you're on your own, you're dealing with your own thoughts and you only know what you know. So you have to surround yourself by people who are wiser, who have gone further, who are older than you. Like, you know, I look up to you in so many things, like business. I want to get to your level one day. I want to get to your level of consciousness and understanding. And that's when I'm listening, when you're saying, even at the dinner or we're hanging out, I'm taken to the heart and I'm literally downloading the information and data that you're providing and trying to apply it into my life moving forward in the best possible way. But I don't have these opportunities a lot. Oftentimes, I'm the only one given, and I'm not receiving information. I spend countless and countless of times explaining my ways to the people who didn't really take it seriously and they didn't take an action upon it. And I just kind of locked myself in a box of not talking to many people about the dreams or the practical things that you have to do within the business or within the exercise and the human body and all that, because I saw no execution beyond it. Now, to me, I don't have to be guided on nothing. Just like back in my childhood, I just have to see that it's possible and I'll execute on it myself. Now, when I know different perspective on life and different perspective on consciousness and spirituality, I got something to execute on.
Well said. That since I've known you, that's your superpower. Your superpower is the fact that you find people that are where you want to be. You listen, you execute. Your ego doesn't get in the way. You know what I mean? You just simply say, okay, this is what I want to do. You know that if you want to get a certain form of, physique, you're going to either study it, you're going to find it, you're going to figure out a better way, whether it's real estate, whether it's spirituality, or whatever it is. And it's just one of those things I just keep thinking about. So many people that are high performers that want to push to the max of things. There's this place inside of us where we want to go big or go home. You know what I mean? But I think sometimes it's less is more, because a tree doesn't ask to expand, it simply does. And so sometimes it's sitting in that quietness and that stillness and that peace, as I was explaining before, and really just listening to your heart. And I love that we're having these difficult conversations, and yet you're open, you're transparent, you're vulnerable, and that's going to lead you so far in life. Because of that, that's why I'm saying, hey, listen, the viewers, the listeners, if they're wanting to reach the goals that you have, which is, weight loss, put on muscle, feel healthy, not have to go to the gym. I think it takes 20 minutes to work out roughly. In that workout though, you're pushing. But if they want to find more about you so that they can experience your program, get to know you a lot more, I know they can follow you on social media, but why don't you tell them where to find you?
Daniel Medior _, on Instagram, dmprotrainer.com. That's my website where you can find all of my services. And I also have my own YouTube channel, which is Daniel Medior USA. These are the best ways.
Perfect. Is there anything, because one of the things that we talked about yesterday is about how difficult it is to ask for help. Who knows who's watching this? Who knows who's out there in the universe? What is something right now that you need to bring into your space? You're not aware of, but you would ask somebody for it. What would you ask them for right now? What is it?
Explain me more about the hard stuff. That's what I would ask for right now. That's new to me. I'm surprised. I don't know how to listen to that. I use my consciousness. I use logic. I use calculations and kind of trying to figure out and map out the path towards a certain goal. I have no idea about this stuff.
Well, so if there's someone out there that is listening to this that says, hey, listen, there's some things I want to give to Daniel from the heart, from a place of just love, send him a message, give him your information. Maybe you guys will connect, be brothers or sisters or whatever's going to happen there. But I know that this is a man that is always walking his own truth, his own path, and is always seeking excellence, which means whatever you have to tell him, that more likely than not, he's going to absorb, he's going to research, he's going to study, and more likely than not, he's probably going to do it bigger and more than what you probably will.
So, I appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Thanks
so I appreciate you coming out, man. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. Thank you for being open to this and wanting to experience this. So you've given a lot of beautiful knowledge. You have really spoken from your heart, even though you don't realize it. But I really appreciate you and have a lot of love for you, my brother.
Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you.